The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council gleamed under 3 different suns. Inside the Great Hall, representatives from 47 different worlds sat in their assigned seats. Each species looked different from the others. Some had blue skin and 4 arms. Others looked like walking trees with golden leaves. A few resembled giant insects with shining metal wings. At the center podium stood Ambassador Veltar from the Krillian Empire. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors as he spoke. Today, the colors showed his amusement and contempt. He held a datapad in his 3-fingered hand and smiled with his razor-sharp teeth. "Fellow council members," Veltar began, his voice echoing through the hall, "today we discuss the most amusing discovery in recent memory. The species called humans from the 3rd planet in the Sol system." Laughter rippled through the assembly. The Vortani delegates clicked their mandibles in what passed for chuckling among their kind. The plant-like Dendari rustled their leaves. With mirth, Veltar activated a hologram that showed Earth spinning slowly in space. "Look at this primitive world. They still burn dead organic matter for energy while we harness the power of entire stars. They fight wars over imaginary lines on maps while we have achieved perfect peace through mind-linking technology." Commander Drixon of the Vortani fleet stood up. His insect-like head tilted as he spoke. "My scout ships report even more entertaining facts. These humans have barely managed to place a few settlements on their own moon. Meanwhile, my people control mining operations on 17 different moons across the galaxy." More laughter filled the hall. The Zentran Prime Minister waved, his purple tentacles in excitement. "Tell them about their weapons, Commander." Drixon's compound eyes glittered with amusement. "They still use projectile weapons that fire small metal pieces at each other. Some of their soldiers carry sticks with sharp points on the end. They call them spears. Can you imagine facing our plasma cannons with pointed sticks?" The entire council erupted in laughter. Some species made sounds that humans would not recognize as laughter, but served the same purpose. The Krillians chimed like broken bells. The Vortani buzzed their wings rapidly. The Dendari released spores that glowed with joy. In the observer section, Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat perfectly still. She was the only human in the massive hall. Her dark eyes watched every speaker. Her jaw muscles tensed, but she said nothing. She wore a simple blue uniform that looked plain compared to the elaborate costumes and natural features of the alien delegates. Veltar continued his presentation. "Their largest military vessels are metal boxes that float on water. They call them aircraft carriers. Our smallest scout ships could destroy their entire navy in minutes. They have no shields, no energy weapons, no faster-than-light travel capability. What about their space program?" asked the delegate from Proxima Station. "Laughable," Drixon replied. "They strap themselves to controlled explosions and hope for the best. Their fastest ships would take them thousands of years to reach the nearest star. Most of their space missions fail because they cannot master basic gravitational mathematics." The Dendari delegate swayed forward. "Perhaps we should consider them for the protected species list. They seem too primitive to survive much longer without guidance." Murmurs of agreement spread through the hall. The protected species list was reserved for civilizations too backward to manage their own affairs. Species on the list received food, shelter, and basic education in exchange for giving up all rights to self-governance. "An excellent suggestion," Veltar said. "These humans show some creativity in their art and music. They might make interesting specimens for our cultural preservation programs. We could set aside a few continents for them to live on while we manage the rest of their planet." Dr. Rodriguez finally stood up. The hall fell silent as all eyes turned to her. She walked slowly to the speaking platform. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet chamber. "Ambassador Veltar has given you many facts about my people," she said in a calm voice. "All of them are correct. We do burn fossil fuels. We do fight wars over territory. We do use simple weapons and slow ships." The aliens leaned forward, expecting her to plead for mercy or beg for help. But there is one thing you should know about humans, Rodriguez continued. We learn fast when we need to, and we fight hardest when others think we cannot fight at all. Veltar's crystal body flashed red with irritation. Dr. Rodriguez, your species is thousands of years behind the rest of the galaxy. Accept our protection. Gracefully, we are offering you a chance to survive. You are offering us a cage, Rodriguez replied. And humans do not do well in cages. The Vortani commander buzzed his wings dismissively. You have no choice in the matter, the council has decided. Your world will be placed under our protection within 1 standard month. Resistance would be futile and frankly suicidal. Rodriguez looked around the hall at all the alien faces staring at her. Some showed pity, others showed amusement. A few showed genuine concern for what they saw as a doomed species. You are making a mistake, she said quietly. You see our current technology and assume you know everything about us. You see our wars and think we are savage. You see our simple weapons and think we are weak. But you have never seen humans when we are truly threatened. Your threats are meaningless, Veltar sighed. What could you possibly do to any of us? Throw rocks at our starships? Point your spears at our energy shields? Rodriguez smiled for the first time since entering the hall. It was not a friendly smile. You will learn, I promise you that. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence that followed. No one spoke until the doors closed behind her. The debate that followed was brief. The council voted unanimously to classify humans as a protected species. They set a date for the protective occupation to begin. Most delegates were already thinking about other business. None of them noticed the small device Dr. Rodriguez had left under the speaking platform. It looked like a simple communication device, but it was much more sophisticated than anything the aliens had ever seen. The device recorded everything that happened in the chamber and transmitted the data across space using quantum entanglement principles that the galaxy had not yet discovered. The signal reached Earth in moments. It was received by a facility hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility looked abandoned from the outside, but inside it hummed with activity. Men and women in military uniforms studied data screens and worked at computer terminals that used technology decades ahead of anything the public knew existed. General Morrison read the transcript of the council meeting. His weathered face showed no emotion as he reached for a red telephone on his desk. This is Morrison, he said when someone answered. The aliens took the bait. They think we are helpless. Begin phase 2 of the preparation protocol. And send a message to all the black sites. Tell them it is time to stop hiding what we can really do. Far from Earth, in the dark spaces between stars, something else was watching. Ancient ships drifted in the void like sleeping predators. They had been waiting for this moment for 1,000 years. Inside the largest ship, a creature that had lived since before most stars were born opened eyes that burned with hunger. The children of the galaxy gather their fleets, the creature whispered to itself. They prepare to play at war with the newcomers. Perfect. Let them exhaust themselves protecting the weak. When they are tired and broken, we will emerge from the darkness and feed on them all. The creature's name was the Harbinger, and it commanded a fleet that had devoured civilizations older than the current Galactic Alliance. It had been waiting for the right moment to return. The moment when the galaxy's defenders would be distracted and vulnerable, that moment was almost here. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council voted to protect humanity. The alien fleets were already moving toward Earth when the first distress call came from the edge of Krillian space. Captain Marcus Stone was drinking coffee on the bridge of the UES Defiant when the message arrived. His ship was patrolling near Jupiter, officially conducting routine mineral surveys. In reality, they were testing new weapons that the public did not know existed. The communication officer looked up from her station with a confused expression. Captain, we are receiving a distress signal from outside the solar system. The signal is using Krillian military codes. Stone set down his coffee cup and frowned. That's impossible. The Krillians do not share their military frequencies with primitive species like us. The signal is definitely authentic, sir, and Captain, the voice sounds terrified. Stone nodded to his communications officer. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was Ambassador Veltar, the same Krillian who had mocked humanity just months before. But now his crystal voice cracked with fear and desperation. This is Ambassador Veltar of the Krillian Empire to any ships in range. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. Our shields are failing. These weapons are unlike anything we have encountered. They are not using energy beams or projectiles. They are draining our life force directly. Our crews are aging decades in. Minutes, please. If anyone can hear this message, send help. They came from nowhere. Ships that look like they are made of living shadow and bone. They phase through our shields like they do not exist. Our plasma cannons pass right through them. We cannot fight something that exists partially outside normal space. Please help us, please. The transmission dissolved into static and then cut off completely. Stone looked at his tactical officer. Lieutenant Barnes, can you get a fix on that transmission? Yes, sir. It came from the Cathara system, about 40 light-years from here. That system has 3 Krillian colonies with a total population of 50 million. Can we reach them? Barnes checked his instruments. Not with conventional drive systems, sir. It would take us 60 years to get there. Stone smiled grimly. Good thing we are not using conventional drive systems. Helm, prepare for quantum jump. Set course for the Cathara system. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Quantum jump technology was supposed to be impossible. The aliens had told them so many times. Humans were too primitive to understand the mathematics involved. Quantum drive online, Captain, the helmsman reported. Ready for jump on your command. Execute. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines and then disappeared entirely. For a moment, the Defiant existed in a space between spaces where the laws of physics worked differently. Then normal space returned and they emerged near a dying star system. What they found there horrified even the experienced crew of the Defiant. 3 planets that had once supported thriving civilizations were now gray and lifeless. The alien. Cities that had covered their surfaces were empty ruins. But worse than the dead worlds were the ships floating in space around them. Dozens of Krillian vessels drifted without power. Their crystal hulls had turned black and brittle. Through the transparent sections, the crew could see the Krillian bodies inside. They looked like they had aged 1,000 years in hours. My God, whispered the tactical officer. What could do this? The answer came when the sensors detected movement near the system's outer edge. Ships unlike anything in the galactic databases were approaching. They looked like they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls pulsed with dark energy and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Red alert, Stone ordered. All weapon systems online. Prepare for contact. The alien ships moved with impossible grace, flowing through space like living creatures. As they approached, the Defiant's crew could see details that made their skin crawl. The hulls were covered in what looked like ribs and spines. Windows glowed with sickly green light. A transmission came from the lead ship. The voice that spoke was ancient and filled with hunger. Unknown vessel, you have entered a feeding ground. Depart now or join the husks floating around you. We are the Void Hunters. We have consumed civilization since before your star was born. Your primitive technology cannot harm us. Captain Stone activated the ship's external communications. This is Captain Marcus Stone of the Terran vessel Defiant. You have attacked our allies and destroyed innocent civilizations. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Laughter filled the bridge. It was the sound of something that had forgotten what mercy meant. Your allies? The crystal beings who planned to cage you like animals? How amusing. We watched their council meetings. We heard their plans for your species. Why would you defend those who would enslave you? Stone's jaw tightened. Because that is what humans do. We protect others even when they do not deserve it. How primitive, how wonderfully naive. We will enjoy draining the life from your crew. Your emotions will make the feast even sweeter. The Void Hunter ships began to surround the Defiant. Energy tendrils reached out from their hulls. Probing for weaknesses in the human ship's defenses, Stone looked at his weapons officer. Target the lead ship. Fire everything we have. Sir, our weapons are experimental. We do not know if they will work against alien technology. Then we are about to find out. Fire. The Defiant unleashed a barrage unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the weapons fired distortions in space-time itself. Gravity wells opened and collapsed in microseconds. Reality twisted and bent around the attacking ships. The first Void Hunter vessel, caught in the gravity distortion, simply vanished. It was crushed into a point smaller than an atom and disappeared from normal space entirely. The creature piloting. It did not even have time to scream. The other Void Hunters stopped their advance. For the first time in millennia, they felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. Impossible, the lead Void Hunter transmitted. No species has mastered reality manipulation to this degree. The mathematics alone should be beyond any civilization younger than 1 billion years. Stone smiled coldly. You made the same mistake everyone else makes. You assumed our technology was primitive because it looked simple. But while you were perfecting energy weapons, we were learning to bend the laws of physics themselves. The Defiant fired again. This time the weapons created a cascade of quantum explosions that tore through the Void Hunter formation. Ships that had survived the destruction of countless civilizations were ripped apart by forces that attacked them on multiple dimensional levels. Simultaneously, the surviving Void Hunters retreated, but not before their leader sent one final message. We underestimated you, humans. That will not happen again. We have called for reinforcements from the Galactic core. What approaches now will not be so easily defeated. Enjoy your small victory, it will be your last. The alien ships vanished into the darkness between stars, leaving the Defiant alone among the ruins of 3 worlds. Stone turned to his communications officer. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the aliens were right about one thing. We are primitive compared to what is out there. But primitive does not mean helpless. Meanwhile, throughout the galaxy, other species were discovering that their most advanced weapons were useless against the Void Hunters. Plasma cannons passed harmlessly through their ships. Energy shields provided no protection against weapons that drained life force directly. The Galactic Council met in emergency session as reports poured in from the outer territories. System after system went dark as the Void Hunters spread across civilized space like a plague. Dr. Rodriguez stood before the panicked assembly and spoke words that no one wanted to hear. You need our help now. The question is whether we will give it to you after you plan to enslave us. The same aliens who had laughed at human technology 6 months ago now begged for human protection. But in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy's edge, ancient minds were planning a war that would make their previous attacks look like minor raids. The real invasion had not even begun. The attack on the Vortani homeworld began at dawn. The Void Hunters emerged from the space between dimensions like nightmares made real. Their living ships descended on the planet's major cities while the orbital defense platforms tried desperately to stop them. Admiral Lisa Park watched the destruction from the bridge of the UES Valkyrie. Her fleet of 12 human ships hung in space just outside the Vortani system. They had arrived too late to prevent the attack, but not too late to witness its horror. Admiral, the Vortani defense fleet is being destroyed, reported Commander Hayes from the tactical station. Their plasma weapons are having no effect on the Void Hunter ships. The aliens are just passing through their energy shields like they do not exist. On the main screen, Park could see the once proud Vortani fleet being torn apart. Ships that had ruled the space lanes for centuries were reduced to empty hulls drifting in the void. Inside each vessel, the crew had aged to death in minutes as the Void Hunters drained their life force. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from a Vortani refugee ship, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Ambassador Veltar. The proud Krillian's crystal features had lost their luster and his voice shook with desperation. Human ships, you must retreat immediately. These creatures cannot be fought with conventional weapons. They exist partially outside normal space. Your projectile weapons and primitive technology will be useless against them. Admiral Park studied the tactical display showing the Void Hunter formation. There were 30 of their ships attacking the planet while another 20 held position near the system's edge. Her 12 vessels were outnumbered more than 4 to 1. Ambassador Veltar, this is Admiral Park of the Terran Defense Force. We appreciate your concern, but we did not come here to retreat. You do not understand, Veltar pleaded. We have tried everything. Plasma cannons, particle beams, antimatter warheads. Nothing can touch them. They absorb energy attacks and phase through physical projectiles. They are invincible. Park smiled. Grimly, they are not invincible. They have just never faced weapons designed specifically to kill things that should not exist. She turned to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Martinez, arm the reality disruptors. Set them for maximum dimensional penetration. Aye, sir. Reality disruptors armed and ready. The Void Hunters had noticed the human fleet by now. 3 of their ships broke off from the planetary attack and moved to intercept. They transmitted the same arrogant message they had sent to every species they encountered. Primitive humans. You have entered a feeding ground. Your simple weapons cannot harm us. Withdraw now or become food for beings beyond your comprehension. Park activated the fleet communications channel so all her ships could hear her response. This is Admiral Park to all Void Hunter vessels. You have attacked peaceful civilizations and murdered billions of innocent beings. You will surrender immediately. Or be destroyed. The response was laughter that sounded like the screaming of dying stars. Foolish children. We have devoured civilizations that mastered faster-than-light travel when your species was still living in caves. What could you possibly do to threaten us? You are about to find out, Park replied. All ships, open fire. The human fleet unleashed. Weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Reality disruptor beams struck the approaching Void Hunter ships and tore holes in the fabric of space itself. The alien vessels, which had phased through every other attack, suddenly found themselves being pulled apart by forces that existed on levels of reality they could not escape. The first Void Hunter ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it had been folded into a pocket dimension where the laws of physics worked differently. The creature inside experienced the terror of being crushed by infinite mass while simultaneously being stretched across infinite distance. The second ship tried to phase into the space between dimensions to escape. Instead, it ran directly into a quantum mine that existed in all dimensions simultaneously. The explosion that followed burned through 11 different levels of reality. The third ship attempted to drain the life force from the human crews, sending out tendrils of dark energy toward the Terran vessels. The tendrils struck the human ship's shields and simply stopped. The shields were not made of energy that could be absorbed. They were made of twisted space-time that created a barrier between dimensions. Impossible, the surviving Void Hunter transmitted. No species has mastered dimensional manipulation to this degree. These weapons should not exist. Admiral Park's voice was cold as space. We learned a long time ago that the universe is full of things that should not exist. So we built weapons to kill them. The human fleet advanced into the system, their reality warping. Weapons carving through the Void Hunter formation like a knife through paper. Ships that had survived the fall of empires older than Earth's sun were destroyed by forces that attacked them on fundamental levels they could not defend against. But the humans were not content to simply destroy the attackers. As the Void Hunter ships died, human boarding parties teleported directly into their hulls using technology that folded space like origami. The boarding teams wore armor that existed partially outside normal dimensions, making them immune to the life-draining abilities that had made the Void Hunters so feared. Commander Torres led one of these boarding parties into the largest Void Hunter vessel. Her team moved through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. The ship itself was alive and trying to digest them. Stay together, Torres ordered through her suit's communication system. Remember, these ships are part biological. They will try to confuse us with illusions and false passages. Her team reached the ship's command center where they found the Void Hunter commander. The creature was 12 feet tall and looked like a walking nightmare. Its body was made of shadow and bone held together by pure malevolence. "You cannot kill me, human," the creature hissed. "I am eternal. I have fed on the life force of billions. I am beyond death." Torres raised her weapon and smiled inside her helmet. "Maybe you are beyond normal death. But this is not a normal weapon." She pulled the trigger and fired a stream of concentrated entropy. The beam struck the Void Hunter and began to unravel its existence on a quantum level. The creature's scream echoed across multiple dimensions as it was reduced to nothing. More than a bad memory. Throughout the system, similar scenes played out as human forces systematically destroyed the Void Hunter fleet. The aliens who had seemed invincible just hours before were being hunted down by beings they had dismissed as primitive. The surviving Void Hunters gathered near the edge of the system, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. Their leader, a creature that had lived since the galaxy was young, sent one final transmission. "We underestimated your species, humans. We thought you were simple children playing with crude tools. We did not realize you had learned to weaponize the fundamental forces of reality itself." Admiral Park responded without mercy. "You made the same mistake everyone else makes. You saw our simple appearance and assumed we were simple beings. But humans have been preparing for threats like you since we first looked at the stars and wondered what was looking back." The remaining Void Hunter ships began to retreat toward the galactic core, but they did not go unobserved. Human spy drones followed them using stealth technology that bent light and gravity around them. The drones would track the aliens to their base and report back with intelligence about their true numbers and capabilities. As the immediate threat ended, refugee ships from across the galaxy began arriving in the Vortani system. Word of humanity's victory had spread faster than the speed of light using quantum communication networks. Species that had mocked humans as primitive were now desperate for their protection. Dr. Rodriguez arrived aboard a diplomatic vessel just as the cleanup operations began. She found Admiral Park on the observation deck of the Valkyrie, looking out at the rescued Vortani ships. "The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting," Rodriguez reported. "They want to discuss a formal alliance." Park nodded without turning away from the viewport. "I bet they do. 6 months ago they wanted to put us in cages. Now they want us to save them. What should I tell them?" Park finally turned to face her. "Tell them we will consider their request, but this time we negotiate as equals. No more protection programs. No more primitive species classifications. If they want our help, they will treat us with respect." Meanwhile, in the dark spaces beyond the galactic rim, the surviving Void Hunters were reporting to their ancient masters. The creatures that ruled from the galactic core had been sleeping for millions of years, waiting for the galaxy to grow fat and complacent. Now they were awakening. And they were very interested in these humans who had dared to defy them. The Harbinger itself began to stir in its vast ship at the center of the Void Hunter fleet. It had not personally entered battle for eons, preferring to let its servants do the hunting. But these humans had proven they were worthy of its direct attention. The real war was about to begin. The great crystal dome of the Galactic Council looked exactly the same as it had 6 months earlier. But everything else had changed. The same aliens who had once sat in judgment of humanity now waited anxiously for humans to arrive and save. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked into the chamber accompanied by Admiral Park and General Morrison from Earth's hidden military programs. Behind them came a delegation of human scientists, engineers, and military advisors. For the first time in galactic history, humans sat at the head table while alien representatives waited nervously in the observer sections. Ambassador Veltar was the first to speak. His crystal body had lost much of its luminous quality since the Void Hunter attacks began. Dark veins ran through his transparent skin where the stress had cracked his internal structure. Dr. Rodriguez, Admiral Park, on behalf of the Krillian Empire, the first formally request military assistance against the Void Hunter threat. Our latest reports indicate they have consumed 17 star systems in the past month. Our combined fleets are powerless against their dimensional warfare capabilities. Commander Drixon of the Vortani Federation buzzed his wings nervously as he added his voice to the plea. Our homeworld was saved only because of human intervention. Without your reality-warping weapons, my entire species would have been extinct. We need your protection. One by one, the representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations stood and begged for help from the species they had dismissed as primitive savages. The Zentrum Prime Minister offered access to their vast mineral wealth. The Dindari promised to share their biological technologies. Even the proud Nexari, who had never acknowledged the existence of any species they considered inferior, sent an official delegation to request human aid. Dr. Rodriguez listened to their pleas with the same calm expression she had worn 6 months earlier when they were planning to cage her people. When the last speaker finished, she stood and surveyed the assembly. "You want our help," she said simply. "That is understandable. The Void Hunters are a threat to all life in the galaxy. But before we discuss military cooperation, we need to address some fundamental issues." She activated a holographic display that showed the current political structure of the galaxy. Different colors marked the territories controlled by various alien governments. Earth appeared as a tiny dot marked in gray as an unaligned system. 6 months ago, this council voted to classify humanity as a protected species requiring supervision and guidance. You plan to occupy our world and manage our civilization for our own good. Some of you suggested reserving continents for us to live on while you manage the rest of our planet. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Several looked down at their hands or appendages to avoid meeting Rodriguez's steady gaze. Now you want us to save you from a threat your superior technology cannot handle. You want access to weapons you do not understand created by minds you considered too primitive to govern themselves. Ambassador Veltar's crystal body flashed with desperate colors. "Dr. Rodriguez, we admit our assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. We are prepared to revise our classification of your species." "To what?" Rodriguez asked sharply. "Emerging civilization status," Veltar replied hopefully, "with full rights to self-governance and limited representation in the council." "General." Morrison laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Limited representation? How generous?" Admiral Park stood and walked to the holographic display. She touched a control and the image changed to show the current military situation. Red markers indicated Void Hunter attacks while blue markers showed human fleet positions. "While you have been debating politics, we have been fighting a war," Park said. "Our ships are currently engaged in 17 different systems. We have saved millions of your people and destroyed dozens of Void Hunter vessels. We did this without asking for your permission or waiting for your approval." She turned to face the assembled aliens. "You want to know what we want in return? It is simple. We want to be treated as equals. Not as emerging civilizations or protected species or any other category that puts us below you in your hierarchy. Equals." The Dindari delegate swayed forward on her tree-like legs. "What exactly does that mean in practical terms?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "It means Earth becomes a full member of the Galactic Council with voting rights equal to any other member. It means human colonies can be established anywhere in the galaxy without requiring permits from other species. It means our trade vessels have the same rights and protections as yours. And it means we participate in all decisions affecting Galactic security and policy." "Impossible," declared the Nexari representative. "Full membership requires a minimum of 1,000 years of spacefaring civilization. Humans have barely reached their own moon." Admiral Park's expression hardened. "Then, I guess you do not need our help after all." She turned toward the exit, followed by the other human delegates. The alien representatives erupted in panic. "Wait," Veltar called out. "Perhaps we can make an exception to the traditional requirements." "Perhaps is not good enough," General Morrison replied without stopping. You either want our help or you do not, but we will not serve as your military while you treat us as second-class citizens. The Galactic Council went into emergency session as the humans left the chamber. For 3 hours, representatives argued about precedent and protocol while Void Hunter attacks continued to devastate the outer territories. Finally, desperation overcame tradition. When the humans returned to the chamber, they found a very different scene. The Council had voted unanimously to grant Earth full membership with all rights and privileges. Dr. Rodriguez was invited to take her place at the head table as an equal partner in galactic governance. We accept, Rodriguez said simply. Now, let us discuss how we are going to win this war. The strategy sessions that followed revealed just how unprepared the galaxy was for the Void Hunter threat. For thousands of years, the major powers had fought wars using energy weapons and defensive shields. Their tactics were based on fleet formations designed to maximize plasma cannon coverage and energy shield overlap. Colonel Jack Turner from Earth's Special Operations Command looked at the alien battle plans with barely concealed disbelief. You fight wars like it is a formal dance? Neat formations, predictable movements, weapons that announce their presence from light years away. Commander Drixon bristled at the criticism. These tactics have proven successful for millennia. Our fleets have maintained peace and order throughout the galaxy. Against opponents who fight the same way you do, Turner replied. The Void Hunters do not follow your rules. They appear without warning, ignore your formations, and use weapons that bypass your defenses entirely. He activated his own holographic display showing recordings of recent Void Hunter attacks. Look at how they move, no formation at all. Each ship acts independently, striking from unexpected angles. They do not try to overpower your defenses, they simply ignore them. The aliens watched in fascination as Turner broke down the Void Hunter attack patterns. For creatures they had dismissed as primitive, the humans showed a remarkable understanding of unconventional warfare. What do you recommend? Asked the Zentran Prime Minister. We teach you to fight dirty, Turner replied with a grin. Over the following weeks, human military advisors spread throughout the galaxy. They taught alien crews how to use kinetic weapons that could not be absorbed by energy-draining fields. They showed pilots how to break formation and attack from multiple directions simultaneously. Most importantly, they taught the aliens how to think like predators instead of bureaucrats. The transformation was remarkable. The Krillian fleet, once famous for its precise formations and coordinated plasma barrages, began employing hit-and-run tactics that confused and frustrated Void Hunter commanders. Vortani pilots learned to use asteroids and debris fields for cover instead of relying on energy shields that provided no protection, but the humans were learning too. Intelligence reports from their spy drones revealed that the Void Hunters were adapting to human tactics. The creatures were modifying their ships and developing new weapons designed specifically to counter human reality-warping technology. Most disturbing of all was the intelligence about something called the Harbinger. The Void Hunter leader was described as a cosmic entity that had existed since the galaxy was young. It commanded a fleet of thousands of ships and possessed powers that made the previous attackers look like scouts. Dr. Rodriguez received the final intelligence report while aboard the Valkyrie as it patrolled the Outer Rim. Admiral Park found her in the ship's observation lounge, staring out at the stars. The Harbinger is coming, Rodriguez said without turning around. Our spy drones tracked the surviving Void Hunters to their base in the galactic core. What they found there was worse than we imagined. How much worse? Park asked. Rodriguez handed her the datapad. Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands, and something else. The drones detected massive gravitational distortions around the Harbinger's flagship. It is not just a ship. It is something that exists partially outside our universe. Park studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. Can our weapons affect something like that? We do not know. Our reality disruptors work by folding space and time. But if this thing exists primarily in dimensions we cannot access, our weapons might pass right through it. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars that might soon become feeding grounds for creatures older than civilization itself. There is something else, Rodriguez continued. The aliens are starting to ask questions about our technology. They want to know how we developed reality-warping weapons so quickly. Some of them are getting suspicious. Park nodded grimly. They should be. If they knew the truth about how long we have been preparing for something like this, they would be terrified of us instead of grateful. In the depths of space, the Harbinger stirred in its vast ship. It had been analyzing the reports from its servants about these troublesome humans. Their weapons were indeed formidable, but they had one weakness. They still thought like young species, believing that intelligence and technology were enough to overcome any threat. The Harbinger knew better. It had consumed civilizations far more advanced than the current galactic powers. It had devoured species that could manipulate time itself and creatures that existed as pure energy. In the end, they all fell because they made the same mistake. They thought the universe was logical and that superior knowledge would always triumph over brute force. They never understood that some things in the cosmos were simply too ancient and too hungry to be reasoned with or outsmarted. Soon the Harbinger would teach these humans the same lesson it had taught countless others. The universe was not fair. The strongest did not always win. And sometimes being right was not enough to survive. The final battle was approaching, and it would determine whether life itself had a future in the galaxy. *****. The final battle began. At the edge of the Nexus system, where the Galactic Council had once mocked humanity as primitive. Now the same space filled with ships from every corner of the galaxy, all united under human command. The combined fleet stretched across millions of kilometers, but it was still dwarfed by what emerged from the dark spaces beyond. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the UES Valkyrie, watching the sensors as the Void Hunter Armada materialized. Thousands of living ships appeared in formations that hurt to look at directly. They moved in patterns that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics, existing partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that human minds could barely comprehend. At the center of the alien fleet was something that defied description. The Harbinger's flagship was less a ship than a wound in reality itself. It existed as a massive distortion in spacetime, pulling light and matter into its hungry depths. Around it, smaller vessels orbited like planets around a dark star. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Harbinger," reported the communications officer. Her voice shook despite her training. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was older than stars and hungrier than black holes. When the Harbinger spoke, reality itself seemed to bend around its words. "Young humans, you have impressed us with your weapons and your courage. We offer you one final chance to surrender. Join us willingly and we will grant you quick deaths. Continue to resist and we will drain the life from your entire species slowly, savoring every moment of your agony." Admiral Park activated the fleet-wide communication system so every ship could hear her response. "This is Admiral Park of the Terran Defense Force speaking for the combined galactic fleet. We reject your offer. You have murdered billions of innocent beings and consumed civilizations that had committed no crime except existing in your path. Today, your reign of terror ends." Laughter echoed across the communication channels. It was the sound of entropy itself finding humor in the defiance of mortals. How deliciously naive. Do you know how many species have spoken similar words to us over the eons? Civilizations that could manipulate time itself, races that existed as pure energy, empires that spanned entire galactic clusters. They all believed they were special. They all believed their technology would save them. They were all wrong. The Harbinger's flagship began to pulse with dark energy. Around it, the space between dimensions started to tear open, revealing glimpses of the cosmic void where the Void Hunters made their home. "We are older than your galaxy. We have fed on the life force of universes. Your reality-warping weapons are clever, but they are still bound by the physics of this dimension. We exist beyond such limitations." Admiral Park looked at the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. The numbers were overwhelming. For every Allied ship, there were 50 Void Hunter vessels. Worse, the enemy ships were beginning to phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to target. Dr. Rodriguez appeared on the bridge, having been transported directly from her command ship using the same folding space technology that powered their weapons. Her face was grim as she approached the Admiral. "The preliminary bombardment has begun," she reported. "Our reality disruptors are having minimal effect on their main fleet. The ships are existing primarily in parallel dimensions and only briefly entering our space to attack." "What about the Harbinger itself?" "Our weapons cannot even detect it properly. It exists on so many dimensional levels simultaneously that our sensors cannot get a lock. As far as our targeting systems are concerned, it does not exist." Around them, the battle raged with an intensity that threatened to tear space itself apart. Human ships fired streams of twisted reality at targets that flickered in and out of existence. Alien vessels that had been taught human tactics darted between dimensions, trying to find angles of attack that could penetrate Void Hunter defenses, but for every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more emerged from the dimensional rifts. The Void Hunters had been preparing for this battle for millions of years. They had weapons and tactics that predated the current galaxy. "Admiral, we are losing ships faster than we can replace them," reported the tactical officer. "At this rate, the fleet will be destroyed within 6 hours." Dr. Rodriguez and Admiral Park exchanged a look that conveyed volumes. They had known this moment might come. Both women had access to classified information that even most human military leaders did not know. "It is time for the final option," Rodriguez said quietly. Park nodded grimly. "Are you certain?" "Once we begin, there will be no turning back. The alternative is the extinction of all life in the galaxy." "Yes, I am certain." Rodriguez activated a secure communication channel that connected directly to Earth's most classified research facility. The voice that answered belonged to Dr. Sarah Chun, the lead scientist on humanity's most secret project. "Dr. Chun, this is Rodriguez. Authorization code, Omega 77 Alpha. Begin final preparations for Project Reality Anchor." There was a long pause before Chun responded. "Dr. Rodriguez, are you absolutely sure?" "The energy requirements for the Reality Anchor will require the complete power output of our sun. The process will consume the entire Sol system." "Understood. How long do you need?" 12 hours for the gravitational manipulators to achieve proper alignment. The process itself will take approximately 6 minutes once we begin." Admiral Park cut into the conversation. "Can you do it in 6 hours?" "We cannot hold the line much longer than that." "We can try." "But Dr. Rodriguez, you understand what this means? Earth will be destroyed. Our entire solar system will be consumed to power the device. There will be nothing left of humanity's birthplace." Rodriguez closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with resolve. "Dr. Chun, there are 47 billion people living in the galaxy. If we do nothing, they will all die. The Void Hunters will consume every world, every space station, every living thing. Earth's sacrifice will save them all. I understand. Beginning Reality Anchor initialization now." As the communication ended, Admiral Park turned to address her bridge crew. "I want you all to understand what is about to happen, Dr. Rodriguez. And I have authorized the activation of a weapon that will permanently seal the dimensional rifts the Void Hunters use for travel. But powering this weapon requires the complete destruction of our solar system." The bridge fell silent except for the sounds of battle raging outside. Finally, the tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, what about the people on Earth?" "They have volunteered," Rodriguez replied. "Every person in the Sol system knows what we are asking of them, and every one of them has agreed to make the sacrifice." It was true. When the final battle plans were revealed to Earth's population, not a single person had requested evacuation. 12 billion humans had looked at the choice between their own lives and the survival of galactic civilization and chosen to give everything for strangers who had once planned to cage them. The Harbinger seemed to sense that something had changed in the human formation. Its ancient mind probed across space, searching for the source of the new energy signatures it was detecting. "What are you doing, young species?" the creature demanded. "We detect massive gravitational distortions emanating from your star system." "We are doing what you never learned to do," Admiral Park replied. "We are putting something greater than ourselves above our own survival. Impossible. No species would voluntarily destroy their homeworld. You are bluffing. You have consumed so many civilizations that you have forgotten what makes life worth living," Rodriguez added. "You see existence only as something to be devoured. You have never understood that some things are worth dying for." The reality anchor began to charge, drawing power directly from the nuclear fires of Sol. Earth's star began to dim as its energy was siphoned off through gravitational manipulators that folded space on a stellar scale across the galaxy. Astronomers detected the impossible sight of a star beginning to fade. But on Earth itself, people went about their final day with quiet dignity. Children played in parks while their parents watched the dimming sun. Scientists continued their work even as their laboratories began to lose power. Military personnel maintained their posts as their equipment gradually shut down. They knew they were dying. They knew their world would soon be nothing more than cosmic dust. But they also knew that their sacrifice would save everyone else in the galaxy. The Harbinger realized what was happening, and threw the full might of its fleet at the human forces. Void hunter ships materialized in unprecedented numbers, tearing through the Allied formation like a cosmic hurricane. "You cannot complete your weapon," the ancient creature roared. "We will destroy your fleets before your device can charge." But the other species of the galaxy had learned something from humanity during the long months of war. They had learned to fight for something greater than themselves. Krillian ships threw themselves between Void Hunter vessels and human command ships. Vortani pilots rammed their fighters into enemy formations to clear attack corridors. Dindari vessels used their biological hulls as shields to protect the ships carrying human reality warping weapons. "This is impossible," the Harbinger transmitted, as its forces were held at bay by beings it had dismissed as weak and selfish. "Species do not sacrifice themselves for others. That is not how evolution works. Only the strong survive." "You are wrong," Dr. Rodriguez replied as Earth's sun began to collapse into the reality anchor. "Strength is not about what you can take. It is about what you are willing to give." The reality anchor reached critical mass. Across the galaxy, every dimensional rift began to resonate with the same frequency as the device. The Void Hunters found themselves being pulled back toward their home dimension whether they wanted to go or not. "No!" the Harbinger screamed as it felt itself being torn away from the galaxy it had planned to devour. "We are eternal. We cannot be banished. We cannot be defeated." "You are not eternal," Admiral Park said as Earth itself began to burn with stellar fire. "You are just very old. And everything that lives must eventually die." The reality anchor activated. Sol exploded in a burst of directed energy that traveled faster than light and struck every dimensional rift simultaneously. The barriers between dimensions sealed permanently, trapping the Void Hunters in their home realm and preventing them from ever returning to normal space. The Harbinger's final scream echoed across multiple realities as it was dragged into the cosmic void. Its ancient voice carried rage and disbelief and something it had not felt in billions of years: defeat. When the light faded, the Sol system was gone. Where Earth had once orbited, there was only empty space marked by a strange distortion that would forever commemorate humanity's sacrifice, but the galaxy was saved. Every world, every space station, every living being owed their continued existence to a species that had been willing to give everything to protect them. In the aftermath, the surviving species worked together to build a monument where Earth had been. They called it the Memorial of Infinite Sacrifice, and they decreed that representatives from every world in the galaxy would visit it once each year to remember what humanity had taught them. The inscription on the memorial was simple: "Here stood Earth, homeworld of humanity." They were called primitive by those who measured civilization by technology alone. But they proved that true advancement is measured by the willingness to sacrifice for others. They gave everything so that life itself might continue. May their memory burn as bright as the star they gave to save us all. And in the deep spaces where the void hunters had once hunted, there was only silence and emptiness. The predators that had consumed entire universes were gone forever, banished by the sacrifice of a species they had dismissed as too primitive to matter. Humanity was gone. But their legacy would live forever in every child born free from the shadow of the void hunters. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all?